All right, good morning, class. I'd like to speak to you for a few minutes about productivity. We're going to introduce our first graph that we'll be using in this economics class. It's called a production possibility curve, and it is a way to analyze a choice between two options in how we're going to use productive resources, right? Country, we know that fundamental concept of economics is scarcity, right? Things are scarce, resources are scarce, you can't do everything, you've got limited time, a country has limited labor, land, and natural resources. So a country or a business has to decide what are we going to produce? How are we going to use these natural resources, these productive resources to produce, you could say, we're going to make shoes, or we're going to make, apples, right? Agricultural products or industrial products. We're going to make consumer goods or military goods, Choices have to be made due to scarcity. Scarcity leads to the fact that we have to make choices. And that, how are we going to use the factors of production? Remember, scarcity relates to this idea, get that pencil, of factors of production, right? Remember the factors of production, right? Those are the four categories of different things that go in to making new finished products that we consume. We said it was land. Now that's the natural resources of the land, everything that comes from the land. Labor, right? The people working and their human capital, their knowledge and skills. We've got land, labor, and capital goods, right? Equipment. So this is your new vocabulary. Land, labor, capital goods. And I guess you could throw in entrepreneurship too. Right? Entrepreneurs contributing innovative ideas and impetus for new businesses. So a country has the scarcity of these resources. Not everyone's an entrepreneur, right? There's certain facilities, factories, tools, and equipment that are available to be used. Labor, certain amount of people, their education and their training, and then certain natural resources, right? So these are scarce, and a country has to decide what are we going to produce. Remember, that was one of our questions. What to produce? That's a big question, right? That's one of the fundamental questions of economics, right? What are we going to produce? We could do this, or we could do that, but we can't do everything because resources are limited, right? So, it could be any two products that you could apply your resources to make, right? It could be guns. You could make guns. I'll just use this. Or butter, right? This is kind of a phrase that is used in economics. Guns or butter. They're sort of two different things. Guns being sort of heavy industry, think military, steel, big intense industry. Where butter is kind of like consumer goods, food, agricultural products, retail consumer goods, right? Guns and butter, those are sort of like terms we use, but it could be anything. It could be farm goods versus factory goods. It could be capital goods versus consumer goods, as we said. It could be hats or shoes, So anything, you just go with it. We're talking about what are we going to produce? You got two options. You probably got a lot of options, but we're going to simplify it with this model, right? What are we going to produce? And so this is a choice we have to make. Right? You could make 100% of guns, and then you'd have 0% of butter, right? But all your resources, all your labor to making these industrial goods. But you could, if you did that 100%, you'd have nothing left over for making consumer goods or agricultural products. Or you could make it all one, just 100% consumer goods, and then 0% guns, right? So that would be the other extreme. These are the two extremes, and somewhere in the middle is probably the mix that you would, as a country, choose to do. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Right? This is the idea of choosing how your natural resources are going to be used, right? So what I'd like to do now is make a chart and think about, quantify this a little bit in terms of, you know, if we did one, how much, what would be the opportunity cost, right? If we did, if we decided to do less guns and more butter, how many guns we give up to make more butter, so to speak. And let's just do, let's use a kind of a simple example here. Let's say, just for example, there's two products, apples and shoes, right? And like on this, this is going to be a what we call a production schedule for a country or a region. They said, well, we can put all our resources and make 100 units of apples, but we make 0 shoes if we did 100 units of apples, right? And units could be thousands or millions or whatever, you know, it's just go with the number. It's 100. So, but now, say you wanted to make more shoes. You'd like some shoes. So maybe you go, we're going to make 20 shoes, maybe 20,000. Maybe this is a units of 1,000. Right? 20,000. Just not 20 shoes because it's a country. Let's think about that. But you're going to give up. You know, can't make 100 apples anymore. You've got to make sort of like you give up maybe let's say 10. So you could only make 90 apples if you started applying some of that to making shoes, right? Some of your resources. And again, remember these are units. All of these are units, not percentages. I started with percentages, but. So let's say, okay, we want more shoes. Okay, well, let's make 50 shoes, units of shoes, and that's going to cut into our ability to grow apples and produce apples. So that might go down to a low number like 60, right? And then so say, well, we really like making shoes. Let's go to like 75 units of shoes. Well, that's going to go like you're going to go down to 30 here. With apples, you can't make as many apples if you're making more shoes. And then I say, well, let's make 120 units of shoes, 120,000 units of shoes. Ooh, at that level, you have no resources left over for making apples, right? So this is what we call a production schedule. And what we're going to do in our next video is to graph this schedule out and see how things change as see how the opportunity cost is for each increase in one or the other. So we'll look at that in our next video. Again, we're talking about productivity and productivity curve, which we're going to graph. We're going to graph it in a second, and the choices that a country has to make to be productive. How are they going to use their resources? How are they going to grow? And like that. Okay, thanks for watching.